Hello, my name is Brian, and we are going to actually UV unwrap the chalkboard model that we did previously. This will be the end result with all of the geometry laid out on this image here, which we will use later in the next video for texturing the chalkboard. Just a heads up, UV texturing is, or actually UV unwrapping is tedious and confusing at times. I'll try to make it as clear as possible, but I still struggle with it from time to time. So I hope you are able to learn something from this. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and UV unwrap this chalkboard model. So I want to select layer 1 here first. Now I'm going to get rid of this lamp, so just go ahead and select it and delete it. This will give us more even lighting when we're looking at the result of our unwrap. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's go ahead and split these windows first. And we'll go ahead and change this window to the UV image editor. And what we need to do is create a new image. Call that chalkboard UV. I'm going to increase the resolution to 2048 squared. Now if I just hit OK here with the generated type as blank, it will create a black image. We can use that, but when we're creating the UV layout, it is more useful to use this UV grid, so you'll be able to see any distortions in the unwrap process when you're unwrapping your model. And you'll be able to see it directly on the model when you're working on it. Let's go ahead and check this out here. I can't remember what I did last time, so you can see I still have the mirror modifiers. I did not apply them, which is fine because that'll allow us to unwrap just one half and then apply it later, and then both the UVs would be done for the whole thing. Just to let you know, UV editing, creating the UVs is and can be a pain. In this instance, this is a pretty simple, straightforward model, so it shouldn't be too bad. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. I'm going to go ahead and just select the chalkboard itself and go to the front view, because with something like this, we can actually just unwrap it with the view in mind. So if you're looking at it straight on, it'll unwrap it just as you see it. So I'm going to hit U. I'm going to actually go into edit mode, sorry. Go ahead and select everything for the chalkboard. We go into front view, and I'm going to hit U to unwrap. And you see here you have a bunch of options here. It's kind of hard to explain what each of them do. I don't even know what each of them do or how they work. I just click on them to see what the result is. Sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's not. So if I were to just unwrap this the chalkboard part, I think it's a cube, so it's just going to unwrap it to fill this image here, and it's like over the parts of it are overlapping, and we don't want that. So we don't have to undo or anything. We can just hit U again to unwrap. Smart UV project, sometimes that works really well. These settings, the island margin is the one I've used the most, and that just kind of increases the space in between your what you could call just the faces of the object. So I'm going to hit OK and see how that does. And actually, that unwrapped it really well. You can see here this would be the thickness, the thick edges here, and these are the two board pieces. So actually we can just go with that. And to view it on your model, just go ahead and select the texture shading. There you can see, nice and straight. And I'll show you what the kind of how a UV can warp. So I'm going to select this. Actually, I got to find where that is. It must be on the front. So if I select this vertex here and then move it around, you can see it's this bottom corner that I'm moving around. And if you had something like that, you would want to fix it. So in essence, that's what that means. We can go ahead and select the frame and go ahead and select all the vertices there, and let's do Smart UV Project for that as well. And sometimes your image will disappear, but it's not gone anywhere. Just go ahead and select the image list and bring it back. And as you can see, that unwrapped really well as well. When we actually apply the mirror modifier here, we can fix the seam that will be here. Because when you're texturing, you want to avoid as many seams as you can, at least visible seams, because then sometimes you can kind of see where the two textures meet, and you usually don't want that. So in this case, this is fine for now. We'll go ahead and just leave that and select. Is that a separate piece there? Okay. Yeah, so let's go ahead and select this little crossbar. I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna smart project that and see what that looks like. Go back to textured mode. Awfully small. It usually fills up the whole space, so you can just hit A to select everything over here and scale it down. I mean, most of the time you want the size of the image to match on all parts, so we can just kind of eyeball it. That might be all right. It looks like it's kind of squished. I'm going to go ahead and select island select, so I can just select this piece and find out which side that's on. Sometimes, I mean, you can't really tell which piece is which a lot of times, so you just got to test it and see. So let's scale this along the x-axis to even that out. So that looks good there. So this, I'm assuming, would be the top piece. Yep. Scale that along the x. One more try there. There we go. And same with these. And this is where creating UVs can be kind of a pain, because it's tedious and a lot of times it won't do what you want it to do. So let's go ahead and there, looks good. And I'll just border select all these and move them down there. Okay, so that piece is done there, and now we have this whole complicated piece here. So let's select all the vertices. I'm going to try the Smart Project and we'll see what we get out of it. And again, got to bring the image back. Everything looks straight. Needs a little tweaking here. But I'm going to actually mark some seams on this object. So we can go ahead and what marking seams mean is I'll mark a seam, and that will tell the unwrap process where to cut the model. So in this case, I could do we'll just work on this straight post here. So I'll mark a seam along that edge, and to open it up, and let's mark this edge, top edge here, and going to undo that. I'm going to go to edge select, and I don't want one there. Let's see. Actually, I do. I'm just trying to find the best way to. Yeah, let's cut it here and here along the top, so that'll open this up and then open the rest of the. We have to actually do the bottom too, unless I don't have a face down there. Let's see. Whoops. Unselect that. Yeah, actually I'm going to have to redo this. So actually I'll mark the seams here first because I want to get rid of the face that's on the bottom here, which we don't need. So with these edges selected, just Control E, and then we will. Why I can never find this for some reason. Mark seam, and you can see it kind of turned it. It turned it red. So let's go into face select mode and remove this face because we don't need this at all. And then we won't have to do any seams because it will just cut right there. So if we were to select everything again, and in this case we will hit U and then just unwrap. You can see all the rest of the pieces kind of unwrapped funky, but this, I'm going to move it out of the way so we can see it. And bring the texture shading up. And you can see it unwrapped pretty well actually. That seam we cut along the edge and then the 3 seams we cut on the top. So that actually worked out really well. Let me go ahead and look at these here. I want to make sure that we don't have any extra faces that we don't need. So that's the main one, and L, that's empty. So in this case, it looks like, let's select this here. So that cut the side. So we're going to actually do the bottom as well, just like we did the top. So go into edge select mode, and I will select this bottom seam because it's going to be out of the way, and you won't notice the texture, any abnormalities in the texture meeting up that seam if it's kind of just not visible. So down there at the bottom, and we want to cut these edges. So let's do those 3 edges there, and these 3 edges there. So this might be alright. Again, I have to fiddle with this all the time, and by no means an expert at doing this. So see, we'll mark the seam there, and let's go ahead and select everything again. I will hit U, unwrap, and it looks like it came out really well, nice and even. Move this down here. I'm just kind of arranging them because I get confused, so I try to arrange them in the position they are in the model. But when you go ahead and arrange all the UVs onto this one image, it's kind of just like, you know, playing Tetris, I guess. You know, you want to keep it as organized as you can so you don't confuse yourself when you go ahead. When you're going into texture, you'll know what pieces are what. But sometimes you arrange them in a way that they fit on the image, and so sometimes it's easy to like import the UV layout and then kind of go into like Photoshop and just label each piece. We'll create a seam on this one and shift select that edge, and we'll Control E and we'll mark a seam on those. So in order to, I don't want to unwrap this bottom piece and this post anymore, because if I were to unwrap with everything selected, it would just unwrap it again. An easy way to kind of do that is you can select this button here, which will mirror whatever selected in one window will mirror the other. So I would go into like face select mode. I'll deselect. So I'm gonna hit all like C and then Alt, and I'll deselect these faces. So all we're left with is the two pieces that we need to unwrap. So I'll go ahead and hit U and then unwrap those. And of course, they're going to be gigantic. So let's go ahead and scale those down to kind of match the size of the, or at least proportions of the rest of the. Scale up a little. Whoops, down a little more. There, that's close. I want to make sure that's not one piece. I'm going to deselect this button here so I can just select this island. Okay, so they're not connected. Grab that along the y-axis, move it down a little bit. So without this button selected, everything needs to be selected in order to see what's in here. So, and you have an island select, you have face select, edge select, and vertex select, depending on what you need to do. Island select is great for moving things about, and arranging your UVs. So that is that much, and let's go and do this knob here. That's one piece, isn't it? Yeah. So first, you want to kind of look at it and get rid of anything that you don't need. We don't need that little face there. Actually, we don't need this face either. And that looks good. So I'm going to hit Alt and then right click on that to select everything. We will need to actually cut a seam there, so let me edge select. I'll select that bottom edge there, and I will mark the seam, and then go back to face select, and I'll Alt right click on that so it selects the whole loop. Hit U, unwrap, and there's that. Let's view the texture on it, and we really need to scale that down. Don't have to, it depends on what you need, you know, what your textures are going to be and what look you want. If I were to do this, you would have a massive amount of detail on that little bitty piece. But we don't need that because it's almost hidden, and it's really not going to be a piece that needs a lot of detail because it's just the screw or the spindle that the knob is on. Okay, so I'll deselect that. I want to actually, I think I can get rid of, yeah, we can get rid of this big face. You really don't need that. Well, you know what, let's leave it just for, because there might be some weird shading issues if I just get rid of it. Now to do something like this, let's, okay, so I have that face selected. I'm going to Shift Alt and then right click on that loop, and let's right click on this loop and Shift select that face. So this is good. Let's go into the right view 3 on the number pad, and in this case we will unwrap. So U to unwrap, and then we're going to do project from view. So you see, I mean, we're going to have some overlapping pieces that we'll have to move. So let's go ahead and bring our image back and bring our texture up. So since it's already all selected, let's go ahead and scale this down. Yeah, that's good. And now let's go back into front view. And zoom in a little bit here so we can see. So I'm going to just deselect these back bits. G to grab this, move it just out of the way. So when we select, actually I'm going to do it this way. Okay. However you select it's up to you. I usually don't do it the most efficient way. So come back in the, with that selected, I'm going to move it down just in case there's any overlap between the top piece I did. Go ahead and hit A to select all. So there we go. We got the front of the knob and the back. Go ahead, border select this. Just kind of move it up close. And now we have to get out of that. So let's go. We need this. And yeah, this one here. And this one. And now we're not going to unwrap yet. We still have to make a seam. I just wanted to select them to make sure that that should be good. Because it's all pretty much on an even plane. There's a little angle there, but that's not gonna affect anything. So we'll go back into edge select. I'm gonna hit Control 7, select this bottom edge here. So we need that, and we need that. Control E, mark this seam. We'll go back into face select here, and Alt right click on these to select everything, and hit U and unwrap. And good, we got a little curve here. I can show you how to fix that. Let's bring this image back. And let's bring up texture view, and you can see it's all crooked. That's from the result of this curve here. So let me kind of make some room. And I'm going to go back in the front view where we can actually see that curvature. In this case, we can, as long as this is deselected, hit Alt and then right click, and you can select that loop or that edge there. I'm going to hit Scale, X, 0, and then Enter. And you can see we even made it worse, but that's fine. So Alt and right click this second edge and Scale X, 0. And you can see it's starting to straighten up a bit. And we will do it the same with this one. Scale X, 0. And Alt right click, Scale X, 0. So there we have fairly, oops. Oh, and we do have some crooked lines as well, and we can actually just do the opposite, scale Y0. And I know there is an add-on somewhere out there that actually will let you take something like this and create, it'll square it off, just like we're doing. This is just the long, tedious way, so I'm just hitting S, Y, and then 0, and Enter. And this straightens up. And that looks good. Let's do this one. And you can see how on a complex model, this would be very tedious if you want to lay out the UVs in your own fashion. If you were to use Smart UV Project, say you took like a whole, like if you sculpted a character model, and then you wanted to just paint directly on the model to create the textures, you could, select various parts of the model and just Smart UV Project it and go ahead and paint on the model, and it would create the UVs. Doing your own layout allows, oops, oh, I'm upside down there. It allows you to more control over your texturing process. And a simple model like this isn't really necessary to have a UV layout like this, but again, it allows for, and I'm apparently Adobe Acrobat wants to update. But in this case, it allows for a more varied use of the model. So you could create, more detail on it, a hand-drawn detail, or if you're making multiple instances of the model, you can have different textures for each one, and that layout will help, make it easier to create those various textures for it. And we need to actually resize this. So I'm going to Shift Alt select these, and A to select everything there, and let's bring it up. Right there, it's good. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to bring, B to box select. I'll bring this down here, and I can't remember where all the other pieces are. So, okay, so one more piece here, and let's first make sure we don't have any. Oh, get rid of this one here. Extra faces that we don't need. Oh, and it looks like I overlapped it, so let's actually select this piece. I'm going to go into front view here, select everything there, and go back in the right view. And I'll just make sure scale it along the y-axis here to kind of bring it in. So this might be a little more complicated, but not terribly so. Let's do this. Go into edge select. Select that bottom edge, and I will hit Control E to mark a seam there. Now I want to select everything. Let's go into face select, and let's deselect. How do I want to do this? Deselect the main parts here. Big flat edges. Oops, get back. So now only make sure only the center here is selected. Okay, so now I'm going to hit Control I to invert the selection because I want to unwrap that piece minus the trough. It was just easier deselecting all the bigger parts instead of trying to deselect all the faces in that trough there. So I'll hit U and unwrap this. And why we have a mess, I don't know. Oh, it's mainly because there's an edge here. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's space select. Can't merge those faces. All right. So let's go in this. Go 7 to go in the top view. Go ahead and hit U to unwrap with just that top piece selected. Whoops. Go back. Top view and U to unwrap, and we will project from view. Just that top piece. And go ahead and select the rest. Just the bottom and the sides. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control E and clear the seam that we have on there because we won't need it. So I'm going to hit U to unwrap and unwrap. So there we go. There's that piece. Bring up the texture just to see what we got. And it looks good. And now with those three, the bottom and the sides selected, just shift select the two top sides, and then I'll hit Control I. So we have that center selected, and we're going to go into 7, go into top view. You don't need to see the actual geometry in order to unwrap it. Hit U to unwrap, and we'll project from view. And let's see, we got to bring our image back since it disappeared. And let's see what that looks like. That came out good. There might be a little distortion up here, but you're not going to notice anything like that. We could have cut a seam along there a little bit, just right down here to kind of open that up. But that's such a small part in this case that we don't need to do that. We would just have cut a seam kind of right here so that this would lay out a little flatter. So that is that. So there is the entire model unwrapped. So now we have to zoom this back out. And now with the pieces that are mirrored, we need to go ahead and apply the mirror. I'm going to hit Shift C to get that cursor back to the center. I'm going to go ahead and actually save this since I haven't yet. And we'll just call this Chalkboard UV. Alright, so with the frame selected, I'm going to go ahead and apply that mirror. Actually, I'm going to Control Z to undo that. I just want to make sure the clipping was on so the vertices at the center are going to be merged. Let's go ahead and I'm going to hit Tab to go into edit mode, select everything. I'm going to go into front view, and so now all of our pieces are overlapped. You can keep it that way, that's fine. Just know that, whatever texture you have on, like say the front right is going to be the same on the, front left. So if you want any variation, you want to split those up. We can actually merge these two halves into one. So you have just one, seamless texture, which we can do that. Let's go ahead and select this half, and I'm going to go ahead and select everything. I'm just going to move this off to the right, and then select everything, see where that's at. Okay, so we have that separated. In order to get the seams matched up, it's easy enough. Let's go to the texture. Let's find out that's the back side, that's the front. So let's move that down here. That must be the back, and this is going to be the front. Just to make sure that yep, that's the bottom piece there. So we can go ahead and island select. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to rotate that 180 and just bring it up close to there. I'm going to go around to the back side here and vertex select. I'm going to make sure that piece is, actually that is the piece I want. So this, so in this case we can just mirror this one over. Since we don't need to rotate it because the top is already on the top, so let's go ahead and island select. So just select this. Oops, get back here. And we'll UV, we'll just mirror this along the x-axis and bring it in here. Now, that's for the left side. This is the far left. I'm just arranging it because keep my my head straight when I'm looking at it. So. And this is just kind of the rest of everything. And I'll bring this, oops, bring this down here, and we can actually, just as long as you're an island select, we can select this and bring it in really close. There you go. I'm going to zoom out here, and I'm going to box select these and hit W to weld. And now you have, whoops, vertex select here. Now you have just one seamless piece. Since these are already matching, we can just weld these together. W to weld, and have that. Back at island select, and we can do the same for this other piece, and then we will be done before we get on with texturing the thing. Oh, that's good. So let's weld those. Zoom out here. Oops. And then we would need to actually rearrange all these pieces onto the image. And since this isn't going to be like animated or anything, I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick save again, and I'm going to select all our pieces. Well, first let's apply the mirror to the, the rest of it. Clipping doesn't matter here, so just apply that. Let's apply this mirror, and I think that's it. So I think we did the knobs, yeah. So let's go ahead and just shift select everything. And I'm going to Control J. So now we have one object with a bunch of UVs laying around here. So we can actually move some of these here. And this was our mirrored leg, so this is going to be right. This is going to be over here. It's going to be over there. Make sure I'm grabbing the right ones. That's the bottom for this one and bottom for this one. Actually move main board out of the way. We'll get our two sides here. I think, yeah, these are all kind of, yeah, it's a lot of just tweaking and messing and moving, and which since you know how to do this much to move stuff around and scale objects, I will provide a completed UV layout in the description. You can download it. There's the knobs. And I'm not going to go through all arranging all this because it's basically just a tedious mess to arrange everything the way it makes sense to you and it fits on the image. So we'll go ahead and leave it there. I will provide the UV layout and this completed unwrap model for download in the description. And then the next time we'll go ahead and texture this chalkboard here. So thank you very much for watching.